So I'm not entirely sure how to intro this video, honestly, to explain what this video is. Um, you probably noticed my content has slowed down a bit, especially since the season finale. The majority of that, like 95% of that, is just because I'm really tired. While the show was on, literally any moment that I was at work or sleeping, I was working on a video. That was what was going on. So at one point, a friend invited me out to go to a movie, and I was like, I can't. And she was like, why? It's like, because I'm taking notes on a television show. She was like, what? I know. Anyway, so that's the majority of it. But the other reason that there's been a bit of a slowdown is that the season finale left me feeling some kind of way. And I've been trying to process that and make it make sense. And that's what this conversation is. I asked my friend Jenn if she would be willing to help me do that, because she works on television, like she's been a television writer and a showrunner before, and also she's just really, really smart. My friend Jenn, by the way, from the Three Wheeling podcast. She's known as Jenn Sedai in the fandom. And yeah, she's on the Three Wheeling podcast along with Rob from Malkier Talks and Meg. And basically that's what we're going to be doing in this conversation. This is going to be the first half of the conversation, where we're going to be talking about Swan, because Swan had some rather dramatic things happen to her in the season finale. So, yes, like I said, this is the first half of the conversation. We're talking about Swan. There are heavy spoilers in this video. Very heavy spoilers, literally through to the very, very, very end of the book series. If you have not read the entire Wheel of Time series, like I'm talking prequel to the very end of the book series, not a safe video for you. So you have been warned. But if you are okay with that, then let's get into it.
Let's be nerdy with Let's Be Nerdy. Let's be nerdy with Let's Be Nerdy.
I don't know how to structure this conversation. I probably should have thought of that ahead of time.
I think we're both good at freewheeling, right?
Yeah. I mean, you do the three-wheeling. So,
yeah, exactly.
You're
I
good
can
at the
three-wheel and
freewheeling.
I can freewheel.
Yes. But we have pre-talked about this. I guess we'll have to recap our pre-conversation for people watching. But as I said to you, the finale kind of it killed my enthusiasm for the show. And it was specifically the last 10 minutes of the episode.
Mhm.
Just sort of it took me a bit to realize what it was that the finale did, why that was the case.
Mhm.
And I think, what I said to you, I'm just going to repeat. I feel weird repeating myself, but
repeat it.
obviously, yeah, we had to do this.
I'll pretend I've never heard this before.
No, because I want you to have thought about
Of course,
it and stuff.
of
But
course.
I think what it is I lost my trust in the show, because in the way it felt to me is that they fumbled two characters that I love, and really, really badly, in a way that makes me go, oh, up until literally those last 10 minutes, I was like, I know what the show is doing. I trust them with these characters that I love and have loved for more than half of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't anymore. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who I want to talk about first.
I mean, you might as well. You might as well. She's both of our favorites, so you could just start with her.
Yeah.
But if you want to say, but we can, or we could. No, maybe we don't. Maybe we save her. We talk about the other thing first, so we can kind of wrap that up, and then we can dig in.
Okay. So then, yeah, Swan. I guess let's talk about Swan first, because I think it actually probably is more significant. Although the Nynaeve one also feels really important, just because of who Nynaeve is to me. But the Swan one is it's permanent. She's
right.
Her head was separate from her body.
Yes. It was.
There's not really much
unattached. But yes, we can reverse that order if you would rather talk about Nynaeve first. That's fine.
No. This is fine. This is probably the one that people this is the issue that everyone seems to think that I care about the most. Which I don't know if this will make the edit, but it's been one of the more frustrating things for me, is realizing that people don't listen to the words that I say because they just assume that they know what I think. Because they people, I'm wearing my identity on my shirt. I am a lesbian and I get that. But it is people assume, everybody, I had people in my DMs being like, "Oh my god, are you okay?" It's like I haven't even said what bothered me, and even people that I had conversations with about it came back to me later and were like, "I know you're upset about dead lesbians."
Oh,
It's like,
interesting. Yeah.
didn't actually like, okay, I did say that in my video, granted, but it was after I said everything else
Yeah.
that bothered me,
Yeah.
and it was as I said to you, it's the cherry on top of it. It's not the cake.
Yeah.
It's the, "Oh,
Yeah.
really?" Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Um
let me jump in really, really quick before we even
of
dig
course.
into the Swan and Nynaeve stuff, and let me do like if I can just like say a general thing.
Mhm.
Because it goes back to the thing that you said about it took you a while to analyze like what it was that you were feeling and how you were feeling it or why you were feeling as uncomfortable as you were feeling, and it was about
Yeah.
the lack of trust in these people having your characters in the palm of their hand and what they're doing with them.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I just want to speak to that a little if I can, because I think that that is not more important than the real issues, like, but I think that they just I just want to only to say that when I look at it as an outsider, but when I look at it from a writing perspective and from a writing standpoint,
Yeah.
I
This is interestingly why I wanted to talk to you about this. Yeah.
yeah, and not that I'm trying to, like, blindly, like, trust the showrunner or trust the writing
Mm,
team or trust, but I have been in plenty of writers' rooms where no one really does care about the material in the information,
mhm.
or who doesn't really don't care about, and granted, like, this is sometimes when I work in preschool and people are like, "It doesn't matter, they don't care," or we're not telling an arc story, so it doesn't matter, there isn't growth, there isn't character growth." I've been in plenty of rooms where people just don't care, or they're like, "It doesn't matter," and it is very clear to me that that is not true here. So, whether or not what they
Yeah.
did works for everybody, anybody, and whether or not you feel like, I'm not trying to say don't, like, you should still trust them, you should feel safe. I only to trust that, or only to feel safe in that you do have people who care, who think about the big picture, who are looking at the big picture, and who are you know, we always say, like, okay, there we have these 10 options, we could do any one of these things, and like, if this works, here are the repercussions. If we go with A, these are the repercussions. We don't know some of the repercussions that might happen from this, but I do know that this is a room of people who are carefully considering full arcs, who carefully consider these characters, who love these characters. And I'm not saying this from personal
Mhm.
experience, I don't know the people on the writing team,
No, of course. Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
how this writing team works. I've listened to them interviewed. I've listened to Rafe talk about it. I've been in enough writers' rooms, and I know the difference between a group of writers who are like, "Give me my paycheck," and a group of writers who are like, "We really give a shit." So, in
Yeah.
that sense, not to make you feel like you shouldn't feel like you're feeling, but at least know that they are operating from a place of good faith and care and thoughtfulness, even if they're making mistakes.
Yeah. And I probably should clarify that when I say, like, I, it's not that I think that there's ill intention
Of course.
by the writers or whatever. Like, I'm assuming good intentions and whatever. And it's not even, I was trusting that they cared about the characters in the way that I'm realizing I'm going to be talking about the characters from my perspective and what
Right.
I saw in them, right? And
Yeah.
I was like, they agree with me about these characters. And now I'm like, oh, okay. I guess they don't. And
Right. Right.
that's like, I know that this is a very personal thing, obviously. And I think that this is something that I disagree with the book cloaks on, who will have this idea that there is a 100% truth about the books,
Right.
and if you see the books differently, then you're just wrong. It's like, well, everybody reads books or watches movies or television or anything. Any media you engage with, you are seeing through your own personal lens, and so it's going to literally be different for every single person. And so to pretend like there's an absolute
Yeah.
accurate way
Yeah. Or
to
like we're telling a biography of like, this is what happened in history and it is documented, and
exactly.
there is no different. Yeah, you're right. Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that, like, I feel unreasonable about this because it's just like, but no, those are they like, it was two, it's two, and we're going to talk about Swan mostly at this first part, but it's two characters that I love a lot, and I thought that the show loved them for the same reasons that I did,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm like, I guess
Mm-hmm.
not,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm not sure how I. Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. So but I don't ever want to say that this is because like me going, well, I think that they just want to screw us, or like, yeah, as you said, like they don't care. That is not a thought that I ever had.
I'm excited to talk about that. I'm excited to talk about it because I'm excited to help you process it. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on it. I mean, I've heard your thoughts, but and we also went through like a whole emotional arc where we were like texting the night of the show and being like,
Yes.
and then I like got angry about things, and then I came back and I'm like, no, I'm not angry anymore. So I'm excited to do this. And I think that I'm also excited it's these two characters, and there's some reasons why I like that these are the two characters we're going to talk about too.
Okay.
I'll share that later.
All right. So, yeah, the Swan one, I will say, and again, I'm repeating myself to you, but for me, Swan in the books, especially like the first 3 books, she's not really. I mean, she's there. Like, she's not in book 1 at all. She's in a couple of chapters in book 2, and then book 3, she's a little bit more present, but she's still just like this outside force, really, to our main characters. And those are the books that cover seasons 1 and 2 of the show. But in the show, granted, she's not a huge presence, but they made her thematically important by anchoring her with Moiraine. And I actually, like, my sister and I had said this multiple times to each other. My sister said it independently of me, like that their relation, like Moiraine and Swan's relationship was the heart of the show. And I was like, yeah. And in my mind, I think what I had thought was, the show is making Swan thematically important. And it felt like a signal to me of them going, see, we know you love this character. We know she's important to you. We know you get, and we get it. And we're making her important now so that when she's important later, it won't feel like it's like a Cousin Oliver situation.
Right.
Right. It's not Oliver that we're literally throwing in there. She's going to be important later. And so we're making her important early. And we get why you love her. And then to way I interpret it, like, I do love Swan. Swan is probably one of my favorite and I don't even think of her as a B-list character. She feels like an A-list character, but she's a B-list character.
Right.
And her story begins with her stilling. Like, her story, that's where her story starts. It's not, I don't care about Swan the Amerlin. Swan the Amerlin is her, like, that's her backstory before the story. And so the fact that they killed her before her story made me go, oh, they don't get it at all. They don't get, like, what? I don't give a shit about Swan the Amerlin. It's Swan's, like, and she uses her, like, in her post-stilling arc, she uses her weaknesses, strengths, her intelligence and her, like, she actually fails as an Amerlin. Like, we don't actually get to see her being wily and sneaky and whatever as an Amerlin, but we definitely see her doing that in her post-Amerlin arc. We see her stubbornness, we see her determinedness, we see her vulnerability, but the way that she exceeds that, the way she finds a purpose, and the moment when Nynaeve heals her is like one of my favorite moments, and it was just, oh no, they don't understand why we love her. Like, they just thought, like, this would be way more egregious, but it's kind of how I feel about, like, if they were to introduce Eggianen. I love Eggianen, but if they were to introduce Eggianen and be like, yeah, here she is as a Shan soldier, and we're never going to show her again, I'd be like, what the fuck?
Right.
You missed, like, the entire purpose of her story.
Right.
I'd rather you didn't introduce her. That's how I would feel about that. Like, and yeah, so I don't know if I have more. I'll say more, but those are my, and I've said this to you before, but yeah.
Well, that I think that brings up a good point, because she is, it's almost like they flip-flopped, because they made her, I mean, she's still a secondary character, and you're right, she doesn't have a ton of screen time, but they did make her a much more present and important character in these first 3 seasons than in the books up until this point. And you're right, like, her story of, and are we full spoilers?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, her story of training Egwene, of being Egwene's confidant, of, I love, one of my favorite moments in that relationship, and that part of the story is when, well, actually part of it is even when Nynaeve calls out her and Lyanna, and she's like, I know that you're faking. I know that you're not actually fighting. And I will tell them if you don't help me help you, kind of thing. And then in the moment when she also, like, become like, when Egwene is there and she's like, I'm not here to be your friend, like, Egwene says to her, like, we don't have to like each other, we just have to help each other. And it's a really mature, a mature relationship that I love. And then that out of that grows love and care. However, Not however. There's no however. There's no however. But there are some like, I know one of the things that some people have said is really frustrating is that they're like, and I understand this, is that Siuan makes mistakes and fails, and we don't give her the chance to succeed. And I have to say, I feel like her speech that she gave in the hall was really powerful and really,
Oh, it was.
it was
Yeah.
really powerful and it was really wonderful. And it was a speech we never got in the books. And
No, we don't actually get to see her stilling in the books.
and I think I used the word, I think I may have said this too. I think I said like they gowaned her by like making her just like fail, fail, fail. And
You
then
might have, yeah.
fail, 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 and get your head cut off. Okay. I'm like, great. They gowaned her. But but she gowans herself in the books because I also like, as much as I love that relationship with her and Egwene, and I love so much about it, she has a couple of like massively fatal mistakes that she makes towards the end of the series. One is
Yeah.
in the end it works out, but rescuing Egwene right
Mm.
when she like after she had Varys to Angreal, like, and then she's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna rescue you. And Egwene is like, you fucking broke my trust. Like you're and they never rebonded after that. She never trusted
no.
her as much, even though she wanted to. So she gowaned herself there in the books. And then she gowans herself at the end when Min is like, I told you not to leave his
Yeah.
side. And she's like, but we're already through the thing. And she's like, nah. And then like has a really unwonderful death.
Yeah. I had actually, okay, I think did I say this to you?
No, I
Did
don't know.
s-
I don't think so.
My Swan's death in the books is for me one of the stupidest things.
Mhm.
I honestly hate it
Me
in
too.
the books. Not because it doesn't mean anything. Her death is just what it feels like to me is they were like, we need death for the last battle.
Yep.
Obviously, we need to have consequences.
Let's kill some shocking
Who
characters.
Yeah, kill some shocking characters who are not needed for the world to continue.
Mhm.
Like we need to, believe
Yep.
that the world continues. So they like literally just put a bunch of disposable characters on the wall and threw darts at them, and they're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I just, it felt like it felt so random, which I know is realistic. Deaths and random,
Sure.
deaths in war, whatever, realistic. But
Sure,
it's
but we're
just
writing the book so it's not random. Like you're
yes,
making it up. We're making it up. We can make it whatever the
yes,
fuck we want. It
it's
doesn't have
not real.
right.
Exactly.
And I do feel, I mean, in some ways I feel if we're going to call her death like random and unnecessary, I feel like at least in this instance, her random unnecessary death, she went out with a
Yeah.
fucking torch. Also her character arc in this show, seeing her as a young girl, seeing her with her dad, seeing her with a dragon's fang on her hut, seeing the hut on fire,
Sure, yeah.
like, and then coming from those things all the way through to like being the most powerful woman in the world, and then on top of being the most powerful woman in the world, being then like literally stripped down to nothing, including her power being stripped. Like she was already stilled in that moment, and
Yeah.
and even with nothing, like that daughter of the river stood up and said, I defy you. And again, like setting up some really beautiful things that are going to come down the road, both Egwene and Rand. She really did set up the I
Yeah.
defy you for both of them, which I think is really beautiful. And had that moment of strength even when I have nothing, because my power is not my strength. My status is not my strength. My strength is inside me. And it's still here, and it's always been here. That I think was
Yeah.
so much more powerful and better than anything we got in the books from her. So on one level, I'm like, we were all, I mean, I was like, if you go the Gareth Bryn with this route in the show, I'm gonna
Oh
like,
no,
I'm
no,
gonna
they were
punch
not.
things.
Okay, say yeah, because I actually have had multiple people say to me like, "Oh, Jenny, you didn't want her to have her post
Oh, of
book
course
arc
not.
or
No.
post stilling arc because of Gareth." I was like, "Well, I didn't think the show would be stupid enough to do that.
Right.
Like, are you kidding?
Right.
I don't need laundry spanking. I'm sorry, I
No.
don't need that.
No laundry. No laundry spanking, please. And I know that Rafe pissed off a lot of people when he said like we didn't want to do the washerwoman storyline, but there are aspects of her storyline in the books that are cringeworthy, frustrating,
So, yeah,
angry making, like
yeah,
that really don't serve her. And so happy to
yeah,
eject all that shit. But I think you're right. We could
yeah,
have ejected all of that shit and still had her be this person who brings up Egwene. And I know that he's like, we have a plan for somebody. I know everybody's saying it's going to be Lyanna.
right.
Lyanna,
It's probably going to be Leanna,
it'll be
and I
Lyanna.
don't. Yeah,
Lyanna and
yeah,
Egwene's relationship in the books, though, I also really love. I really, really love. And I think it gets overshadowed in the
Yeah.
books because we're so focused on Egwene and Swan. And I think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
we don't start to see the Lyanna-Egwene relationship until I mean, I don't think it even like hits its finest, hardest point until Demon Dread's there
Mm.
with the fucking Sharons. Like, I think like
Yeah.
those are the
Yeah.
moments when we were like, oh yeah, like they love each other so much, they care about each other so much. Like we start to see it when they're doing Quendiar and they do the
Mhm.
and I'm like, why do we not get more of Lyanna in those moments? And it's because Siuan is filling that role, and we don't really have
Yeah.
Lyanna to do it. So in one sense, I'm like, I don't want to take that away from Siuan. And Siuan is also one of my favorite characters. And I don't know if I've told you this or not. I think maybe I have, but I have like no headcanon for anybody in the books. My headcanon is interior of them, like how they
Yeah.
feel. It's never been
Yeah.
how they look,
Exactly.
ever.
Yeah.
And Siuan isn't exactly how it looks, but I have a person in my life who has always been Siuan to me. Like
Mm.
she's the only character in the books all the way down the line from beginning to end who I'm like, when I read her in the books, she becomes this friend of mine, and she is this friend of mine.
Yeah.
So I love her, and she's not very much at all like Sophia Canedo. Like there's nothing there's nothing there. But I love her so much. And yet I still get so frustrated and angry when I feel like she's deserved in the books by some of those choices. And so in
Yeah.
any case, I'm conflicted as well. I'm going to miss that element of the storyline. I think the other thing that I worry a little bit about, and I think that they're going to shorten for the series, and this is like the biddable child of it. And when Egwene comes and she's the biddable child, and I think there will probably still be some aspect of like, we're going to get somebody that we can bully, and you can't bully her. But I do think that there's a lot of that to be truncated into this show will have to be about Egwene's journey of not being bullied anymore. She's already had Nynaeve as a mentor who's like not doing a great job of it right now, and like leaving her to do it.
Yeah.
She's got the Aiel. She's got the Aiel as mentors. Like I think so much of that storyline is going to be Egwene stepping into that role. And there won't be as much room for the guiding tutor that Siuan is. So in the show, like I think that role and relationship would have had to have been reduced anyway in order to fit into 8 episodes or 10 if we were to get them. 8 episodes, 8 seasons.
13, 26? Oh, sorry. I know. I'm going to fight with you about this every single time. Yes.
I don't know. I might actually take 13. But yes, I think that they would have had to shorten it so much that it wouldn't have had the impact any of us would have wanted. It would have been one of those relationships where we're like, do I believe it? Like, are they getting enough time to develop that I can actually buy that this relationship is really as strong as it needs to be? And so it would have been very hard to play it out the way it plays out in the books, in the show. Limited time, Rand storyline, Elaine storyline, Nynaeve storylines, all the other storylines happening. It would have been really hard to dig into that and spend as much time in that Saladar building of Egwene's character that we love between them. So and again, like once Egwene has really fully embraced that role and stepped into that role, Siuan is such a side character. She's such a side character.
She becomes a B character at that point. I will.
And becomes
Now,
a B character who makes bad choices.
Yes, yeah. I agree with you. I would say I think Siuan falls into a pattern that Robert Jordan did at least 3 times, where he had powerful women lose their power and then like have a man handed to them as if that was a prize. Cough, cough, more gays.
I was going to say more gays.
Cough, cough.
Your more gays piece that you did like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, or whatever.
Wow.
Is one of my favorite things you've ever done. And it absolutely changed my view of the books. Not changed it, clarified my view of the books in such a concrete way, in such a beautiful way. And I have just been like, don't even fucking put her in the show after that. I'm like, I don't want her to have to go through it. But now I'm like, fine, she can have some trauma. She's like slitting people's throats. It's fine. We got a good strong Morghese. I'm like, I'm ready for it now. But that piece, I love that piece so much.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch that video. I don't remember.
It's so good. It's so good. You said everything right, and it's absolutely brilliant. I love it. But yes, so Siuan, Morghese. I knew you were going to say Morghese. And who else are you?
Moiraine.
Oh, yeah.
She literally has her power literally sucked from her, right as she comes out of like, hey, you've been drained of your power. Look, here's a very, very old man.
Let's get
That's
married.
your prize.
And let's get
Yeah,
married.
that's yeah. It drives me crazy. So
Yeah.
I assumed that the show would eschew all that.
Yeah.
And Kate, I know that this is my own problem, but part of it is that I had envisioned a story for Swan that I thought the show was laying groundwork for.
Mm.
That would fix a couple of things, like obviously get rid of the laundry spanking Gareth Bryn stupidness, and then I'm sure Gareth Bryn is fine.
He's a
but
very
it's
nice
just the
man.
laundry,
Right.
yeah, whatever. But and also fix another thing that because Robert Jordan he set Moiraine and Swan up to be dear friends, and then like in the books they're not even like they were lovers, but whatever.
Right.
And then like Swan gets stilled, and Moraine's like, and then Moiraine dies, and Swan's like, and it's like we could actually have seen some of that. You don't have to focus on the mentorship. Like we could have seen some friends actually caring about each other.
Yeah.
Story.
And it's not like he didn't write New Spring in the middle of it all. Like,
yes,
it wasn't like he was like, in the very beginning, she was like, where have you been, Moraine? You've been out of town, blah, blah, blah. I'm kind of annoyed with you. And we kind of get the impression that they have this really close relationship, but kind of they're like spicy with each other. And then we get New Spring and we're like, oh my God. Like, oh my God. And then we come back to the series and they're just like, who? Moraine who?
Yeah, they don't seem to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They don't seem to think about each other at all, and it's obviously in the show they would have had to have them think about each other because they set their relationship up so intensely. And I know I am not the only one, but there were a lot of us who were like pushing for Swan to be like in the Tower of Genji plot to be the
Yes.
rescuer of Moraine,
Yeah.
and that would have been amazing. And I like because I had this hope for this grand story that I thought would work. And that's the other thing. I said this to you, going back to the cherry on top about the dead lesbians. My anticipation would have been for probably this season or next season when Moraine has her moment to be like talking lesbians back from the ledge, being like, no, 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 the show isn't going to do that. I
Right.
promise you, this isn't another show that's going to do that. Just wait. Just wait.
Yeah.
And because Moraine, dies and then not. And so I figured that was what I was going to be doing.
Yeah.
Instead of this, which is like,
No, she's actually dead.
fuck.
She's completely dead.
She's actually dead.
Yeah.
Like her head was there and her body was there. Like that, we can't fix this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you're right. And
yeah.
it is, and and like to go back to, again, to Rafe saying like, it was either like make them lesbians or don't, and then still kill them. Like, and I get that. I think you and I have had this conversation too, but like it was back in the days of Layla, and I was like, I can't believe they're going to do this right off the bat. Like, straight up fridging, like create a female character, put her in, and kill her for the benefit of a male character of his arc. And yet, at the time, I was also conflicted because I was like, I don't feel like Perrin's whole angst world is earned in the books the way it should be, and this gives him a way to earn it. So. I was conflicted back then as well with that being a choice to, but here are the things that they did differently. It's a hard scene to watch when he kills her, when Perrin kills her in the beginning. But to really distinguish it from Game of Thrones and the shock value of killing people, I do feel like they are being mindful of violence against women on screen in a really
that is something I have to say I appreciate from the show, to be honest. They're
even and I know people were like, whoa, that was really brutal with Swan, and we saw, and I also respect the conversation of like, not only do we see her, that we see her having been, we can imagine how badly she was beaten before we saw her in that last scene, but we didn't see it. I'm glad we didn't see it. And even
we didn't see
even the killing of her was off screen.
It was off screen, and her she was tortured in the books. Like so to me, like it's not explicit, but it's in the way that Robert Jordan would write things. He would be like, I think she feels really proud about the things that she was able to hold back.
Yes.
The implication being that, well, why she hold? Oh, they were torturing her. Like
and she's also devastated about the things she did let go, and she was they absolutely tortured her. And so I mean, that is straight out of the books. That's not a departure. But yes, watching a woman of color who has been brutalized like on screen with the bruises, it's not okay. It's like, that's hard. It's a hard aspect of it. We've also talked about this a little bit, which is, when you have a cast where it is we've just never seen a cast like this. We've never seen a cast this diverse, this colorful, this wonderful,
No.
and this many women on
just to
screen.
this many women, this many people of color, or just of all like
Yeah.
the whole shade. And
Yeah.
because I know that there are people who are upset about that. I can also tell you, I know that there are people who are only watching the show because it's the first time they've seen a fantasy show
Yes.
where they're like, oh, hey,
Yes.
hey, I could be in that. Like literally, my brother-in-law, one of my sisters, not the one who's been on my channel, but one of my sisters, she's watching it because her husband was like, hey, oh, I want to watch that show. Look at that. Like, and it was specifically because it was like magic with black people. And he's like, I've never seen that before.
Yep. Yep.
And yeah.
And I don't, so I don't want to say like, okay, let's make a magic with black people, and then just because we want to make sure no one dies ever,
Yeah,
because
which is no.
which makes it like that's not the experience anybody really wants either. So
Yeah,
it
exactly.
is hard. I mean, yes, like we are once again dealing with, we had a pair of one black person, one white person, and the black person is killed in the pairing. Like that is, we
Yeah.
just saw it with Yvonne and Maxim, and I know that that's also has been
That's because of
yeah, and there are a lot of reasons, and it's unfortunate that there have been a few examples now of that having been the way it's played out, and that does make it something we can have a stronger argument about in terms of like, as the fandom saying, can we do better? And I think that that's absolutely fair, and I respect people's concerns about that. This being Sophie Okonedo, who was never gonna be on the show for 8 seasons, like playing once or twice a season. Like it was just, I mean, and that is the other thing too when you're casting. I guess the other option is Rafe doesn't cast Sophie Okonedo. He casts a relative unknown to play Swan, to have that gravity of playing the Amerlin seat.
Yeah.
Does that, and then, give her a different storyline that keeps her around for longer. And again, when you're in the business of casting the show to get people interested and to say, look, we have world-class actors here, committed to being in the show, doing this work, giving you these performances. I mean, at the end of the day, that speech that she did give, whether or not that would have happened if he had cast somebody else who stayed on longer, but that speech in anyone else's hands would not have had that impact. I mean,
I mean, Sophie Okonedo, like there's really nothing.
Exactly.
Like it's Sophie Okonedo.
Exactly.
This whole, I stunned by this cast that we have, but it gets, as you're talking, I kind of want you to, if you can sell me a bit, can you try and sell me a bit on the Leanne thing? Because one of my, I want to be very careful saying this because I enjoy Leanne in the books, right? And this is in no way talking about Leanne, the character in the show. She's, she's been very tertiary. The actress, Jennifer Chon Garcia, I believe. Yeah. She's great. This isn't not speaking about her at all. It's just the feeling that I have about like, I'm going to try and say this, and please do not. I understand that I'm going to use a very, very loaded metaphor.
Okay.
Very, very loaded metaphor. I don't know how else to describe this without using this loaded metaphor. But it's like I have a dear friend who I love. I absolutely love them. And they're about to get this job. And I'm really excited to see them excel in this job. I want to see them grow and change. I'm really excited to cheer for them. Be like, yes, I'm really excited. And then my friend dies. And then that job goes to somebody else. And everybody's like, no, it's fine. The job's still happening. And as if that's supposed to make it better.
Right.
And it's like, I'm perfectly content. Like, yeah, that person, I'm not upset at that person for having the job.
Right.
But I can't cheer for the job the way I was going to cheer for my friend, not the job.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
Well, I mean, okay. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to convince you differently other than I don't.
I kind of want you to sell me on Leanne. So, because my worry is at this point that when I'm watch us all be wrong and it's a completely different character or whatever.
Right.
But my worry is that like I'm gonna be watching Leanne do this, and the entire time I'm gonna be like, "Fuck, that's supposed to be Swan. That's supposed to be Swan." Like that's my worry, and I'm not gonna be able to enjoy it.
Well, okay. I have 2 things to tell you on that. So, not to sell you. I have 2 things to say about that. One is I do think it will be far more reduced than any of us imagine. And I keep, we've had this happen before in the books where we all have a picture of how it's going to play out on screen, because in our minds, we can play it at quadruple time because we know how long it takes to happen in the book, but we
Yeah.
expect to see all of those things happen. And so we're like, of course, that it will build that way. So I really
That
do.
is absolutely true.
Yeah,
That is
yeah,
absolutely true.
for sure. But I really do think it will be reduced. I think it will have to be reduced for space, for time, for carriage of all these characters. I think that it will be less. And I think that in some ways may have been frustrating to those of us who were like, wait, you're not really giving Siuan her due of like playing this role and teaching Egwene. Like, I think we would have been a little frustrated. So in a sense, if you give that to Lyanna and it's less, we don't care that it's less because it's Lyanna,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
on one level, I think there's that. In terms of Lyanna and Egwene's relationships in the books, I love that relationship in the books. I really do. I think they're a little more pure, and I think that that's cool.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
And I, like the only thing I found about here's the thing. I'm not a makeup and fancy. I'm definitely not a Domani woman. There's nothing about me that knows how to put on powders and rouges. That's not happening.
I'm getting my eyebrows tattooed today.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I'm just very excited for you.
Me too.
And
I'm
mine are like
very hopeful because it's a freaking tattoo.
exactly. And mine are completely non-existent on camera. This is even after I tried to put some color into them. So you see, I have it right here. It's right here. So, see, I know a little bit. This is how old my makeup is that I'm terrible. Okay. So I am not Lyanna at all about that. And in a sense, like her character being like, oh, now I'm into rouges and powders was like, I was like, you're just badass. Why are you doing this? Why are you moving from blue to green? Why do you like boys now? And then, that was sort of my annoyance with it. But on the other hand, I was like, wait, I like seeing a woman empower herself in that way and say that I can do these things to get what not like use sex to get stuff. But like, I just was like, oh, you can be pretty and girly and sexy and still be strong as fuck. And that's okay in comparison to Siuan, who is like, I don't have time for any of that shit. I'm just here to like teach you how to like be a diplomat and figure this shit out.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I think I may have talked with you about this, but one of my issues in the books is that all the women seem to have a fashion arc that trends the exact same way. Like they all
I don't
are
like dresses.
Stout,
now I do.
I do, yeah. Stout to woolen linens. Oh, look, here's my boobs. Like it's every single one of them. Like even Min goes from like boys' clothes to like, oh, look at my ass pants. Like they all do.
Yes. Yes.
For some reason, weirdly enough, the Lyanna one doesn't bother me as much, but I think it is because it's in contrast to Siuan.
Yeah.
And so like it's like, okay, Siuan doesn't really have a fashion arc, but it's just like watching these two women cope with what's happened to them differently. It's just like, okay. If there had been more diversity in all of the women's fashion arcs, I don't think it would bother me as much. It's just they all go in the same freaking direction.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
So,
Nynaeve, you seem to really like these silks. No, I don't. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's true, but I think that also I think has in some ways can make her a little bit less appealing in terms of being that mentor. But the other thing the other reason again I think I'm less selling you on Lyanna and more selling you on why not Siuan.
Why not Siuan? Yeah, which is worth it, honestly.
Yeah,
that is I am
yeah.
Okay.
Because I also think not only do I think that the arc would have been shortened and we would have felt a little short shrifted in it because we would have just been like, this isn't the arc that she's supposed to have. Despite like, let's not talk about her ending, but like in those books when it's really rich and their relationship is really rich and she's like planting all these seeds. But I also think that there is something in her being like, I don't have this power, physical, like the one power or the status power, or the role of Amyrlin's seed. Because she isn't willingly giving it up. It's one thing to be like, I had power, I willingly gave it up, and now I'm going to use I'm going to become a mentor because I have this experience I want to share with the next person. But she doesn't willingly give it up. And so there is, to some degree, I think that it would have been hard to see Sophie in this role of a really relegated, like I hate the way the women in Saladar treat her once she's regains her power. And she has to beg to get back into the Blue Aja. And Lelaine continues to treat her like a servant forever. I mean, don't get me started on the power hierarchy and like how much I hate
it's so stupid.
It's so stupid.
It is so stupid.
It's so stupid. It just makes me angry. It makes me so angry.
Yeah.
Because
it also doesn't make sense canonically because their whole like women are canonically less strong than men,
Mhm.
but they're more dexterous. Why don't women, like, if you're going to make it about the one power where you're choosing your hierarchy, why isn't it skill? It's just, it's so weird.
It's so weird. It's just it doesn't make sense, and it makes me angry, and it frustrates me, and that I really hate. I hate that she has to grovel. I would rather have her
Yeah.
not grovel to Elida and get her head chopped off than have to grovel to Lelaine to get back into the Blue
Yeah.
Aja. Do you know what I mean? And
I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
so there's
Yeah.
there's some things that I think, like, seeing a woman who has lost her power doing whatever there's and I don't this isn't how I feel about Swan in the books. Like, she says, I need to find something to live for. I have found it, and I'm going to make it happen, and I'm going to
Yeah.
teach you if it kills me, because I want you to be the best power Amerlin there's ever been. But there is something, I think, about, like, watching a woman have to, like, grovel to her someone who had her job prior to that, because there's no way she could have it now because she doesn't have the power. She's not strong enough. That that irks me. That is a little bit hard, and I think would have been really hard to see on screen. And I think that it might have even rung false on screen. Like, really, is she? And, like, we
Well,
also,
yeah, because Sophia Okonedo has like a presence.
yeah,
Like she's a,
yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
her presence, here's the other thing too, like, I love the choices she made with Swan. And I also think we're gonna see some of the I think we're gonna continue to see the payoff of the difference between the fisherwoman's simple office,
Oh, absolutely.
versus
Yeah. One
Elida's,
hundred
like,
percent. Yeah.
elaborate. And we're gonna come to realize later that she was a much better Amerlin than Elida will be. But, and doesn't need to have,
Mm.
like, someone at some point will say, despite the fact that she wasn't throwing errors and, like, decorated this room to the nines, I had so much more respect for the last woman who held this office. Like, at some point,
Oh,
there's
I'm
going to be a
sure.
line
Yeah.
like that that's going to call back to those
Mhm.
moments. And so I think that there's, again, like, I love the scene when she meets Egwene and Nynaeve for the first time, and she's sitting and Moiraine brings them in, and
Mhm.
the Emerald waits for only one woman, and it isn't you.
Yeah.
And she brings them in, and she's in that, like, simple, like, sort of shapeless
It's my
gown.
favorite of her
Oh
outfits, to
God,
be
it's
honest. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Mm.
And she's so sitting back and relaxed in her chair, and she like laughs that throaty laugh when they say a couple of things, and
Mhm.
she's like, at their idiocy, and then she's like, oh no, we're not fucking around here, people. And she, like,
Yeah.
there's just so much to the way that she played that in those moments that I think give us more of that roundness to that character that we don't get in the books until far later, and even doesn't get fully explored in the books. And just going back to, like, I do feel like we got so much of her arc already. And I think that Swan as a character, I know a lot of people are like, but she failed, she made bad mistakes, she failed, and then she died. And I just don't think so. And I think the payoff will be that we will see that the things she was setting in place and the way she was handling things, yes, she made some mistakes, but she did a lot of things right. And we will see those in comparison to what Elida does. And I think in retrospect, we'll look back and be like, she was a fucking hero. And, and really, really held together in the face of, like, some of the worst circumstances in the entire world, and, like, couldn't pursue her love because she had to, like, follow this path of, like, setting the stage for the Dragon Reborn. And I think what we're going to see is a really complete arc, but because we know that there's more to it. Like, Swan, to me, her storyline shouldn't just be, I am the teacher of Egwene. Her storyline
Well,
is
yeah.
and should be so much more, you know?
Yeah. I was like, I know for myself, like, I don't know where you are with story, but with me, with story, it's always character. Like, character is what I care about,
Yeah.
then story, then
Yeah.
plot. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
in that order.
Yes.
And character is the biggest part for me.
Hmm.
And so, like, her specific plot points, I kind of like, or like this, her mentoring Egwene. I'm like, yep. It's not so much her mentoring Egwene that I'm gonna miss. It's seeing
Hmm.
her character, her
Her
personality.
feisty
That's what I'm
spark.
gonna miss.
Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm.
Like, I wanna see Swan try and ride a horse. I
Yes.
know, like, that is a stupid thing, like, that's not serious, but, like, that's part of her
Yeah.
personality that we're not gonna
Yeah.
get to see,
Yeah.
and
Her determined
Swan's like,
stride. Yeah.
yeah, her determined stride, her
Yes.
just she's
Yes.
so I'm
Yes.
that's the part that I'm grieving. Her story, I'm grieving a little bit. Her plot, I'm really not at all,
Yeah. But
but, like,
also season one. No.
mm,
Nope. Sorry. Season two, when Lan found her on her way to
yeah,
Cairn. I was like, she's not riding a horse. She's not. I was so excited because I was like, of course she's not. She hates horses. Like,
No,
and
she
I
hates
was,
riding horses.
yeah, and I was
Yeah.
like, and David just looked at me and I was like, never mind. But like, I was like, I was so excited because to me, that was like, okay, all right, we answered the question about her trying to ride a horse. Now we don't have to see her undignified actually not being able to ride a horse, but we did get to see that part of her story because we saw her in the palanquin, not on horseback. And any other Amerlin would have been on horseback because they're like, I ride a horse,
Yeah.
So again, like I feel like a lot of those things are there. They were there. It was just that the plot was cut short. But I feel like a lot of those pieces were there, and so much more development of her relationship with Moiraine. Like I
Of
mean,
course.
it
Oh,
was
of
all of
course.
the
Yeah.
scenes I wanted to see in the books that never got to see. I don't mean the sex scenes. I just mean like their conversations.
Sorry, this is not a rant against you, but I've had so many comments about, they putting sex scenes in the show.
I know.
I don't know what show you're watching.
Because I
There's no
haven't seen any
sex
sex.
Literally none. They kiss. Like, if you were to put all of Moiraine and Swan's kisses back to back, you'd get maybe 30 seconds.
Maybe. More like 15.
Maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
I don't know what people are talking about. I really don't.
I know. I laugh every time I see those. I'm like, what's just because the idea that people have sex,
that's present in the books.
It's present in the books, and it's also just humanity.
Human? Yes. What are you talking about?
I know. It's so great. It's so funny. But yeah, like that's what I mean. Like these are the conversation they had when Moiraine comes to her in the dream this past season, and they're both like, did we break it? We broke it. And also like the finality that they were like, we've broken what we had in this lifetime. Like I know I've said this to you too, but like we've broken what we had. We cannot get it back in this lifetime. And yet Maureen stays, like past the commercial break, whatever, like it fades to black, and like we know she stays a little longer. They kiss. But we've broken what we had in this lifetime. But next time I will wait for you. I will wait for you. I will wait for you. And it was like, that was so beautiful. And and I think I told you too, I was like, my impression was we were leading up to a very different ending, which was Swan lived and Moiraine died, and Swan, and I knew that they would feel it, like that marriage bond. Something would happen.
100%.
And they would feel it.
100%.
And I actually thought that maybe they would feel it in the way that like, that would be actually the undoing of Swan, would be feeling Maureen's death. She would like lose concentration for a minute, and then that's how they would still her or whatever. But, I did, so I knew it was over. I knew it was going to be over. But
yeah, I did not. And I'm just going to say, this is not to you because you and I have had very long, but I've had a few people who are okay with what happened. And I'm getting there. But be very, very dismissive of people who aren't saying, oh, come on. The show very explicitly said that they were over in this lifetime. So I don't know why. And I've watched a lot of movies and television and books and whatever. That has about a 50% success rate of being true. Like, just because you were right in this case doesn't mean that those of us who didn't see that were stupid for not seeing it.
Also,
I'm sorry.
It's the show literally said 150 times, Maureen's going to die, Maureen's going to die, Maureen's going to die. We all know as book fans, Maureen's going to die. And
it's going to die.
Yeah. And I was like, I so overgamed myself. Like I reverse psychology about 17 times to be like, so they're telling us she's going to die, so that we all think they're telling us she's going to die, so she's not going to die. And then she's going to die. And then we're all going to be like, but I thought you were faking. So, I literally overgamed it, but,
I didn't. But I'm still like, obviously next season, I'm thinking next season is when that happens. Yeah.
And some people have said like, oh, it won't happen because she's the star and it's not going to happen. And I'm like, I mean, she's Gandalf. I just don't know how it can't happen, but to come back. But I do think anyway, I mean, and we can move on to Nynaeve if you want to, but I just, and I think Lyanna in the books really is an amazing character who is underutilized and underexplored. And I think even in the show so far, she has been. So to be able to see that character kind of come forward and really step into this, maybe a little more front and center time might be interesting. But she's also like, she's got a, like, she's been like, why are you doing it like this? I think you're making mistakes. I think you're making bad choices. And in the books, there's a little bit of that too, because she's like, why aren't you upfront with me? Why you and Moiraine?
Yeah.
Why is Moiraine your the person you confide in? I'm your keeper. You know
Yeah,
that.
I just had a thought though. I think like them setting her, like letting us see that scene where she's giving Swan obviously correct advice, like
Mhm,
very obviously correct advice,
mhm.
is setting her up for giving good advice
It
to
it does.
Egwene.
It does.
Yeah,
Like, are you looking
yeah,
at the big picture? Because I saw someone who didn't look at the big picture and look what happened. Mhm.
yeah,
And all
yeah.
of a sudden I'm like, "Wait a minute. Are we not gonna get Sheriam as our keeper? And is it gonna be Lyanna?
Mm.
I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, that's
Say
interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. Huh. Okay. Sorry. Full thoughts. So many thoughts. um. Okay. But you know what? Even those thoughts that are coming, that is feeling good because I'm feeling. Oh, that's curiosity about the show that had just completely vanished. Like
There
I
we
just
go.
have
Good.
literally, it was all gone. I'm just not engaged with anything of Wheel of Time. Well, except for working on my parody.
Right. Yeah,
Anyway.
nothing. Nothing.
Yeah. Nothing at all. Um. Before we move on to Nynaeve, I do think I do have to address the elephant in the room,
Uh-huh.
which is the dead
Yes.
lesbians, which is not
Yeah.
was not my main concern with Swan's death at all. But it definitely, I do think that there has been a bit of, again, from people who were fine with it, a little bit of dismissing of that. And I don't know people's experience with this, but I can tell you, and I talked about this in my breakdown video, which was 2 hours. So if you didn't watch it, that's perfectly fine. But when I first came out, I actually was actively seeking out media that had queer people in it. Like I went out of my way to find media specifically with lesbians in it. And I was renting every movie, every show, everything in like one of those services that sent DVDs in the
Yep.
mail. And I stopped my queue probably before I got through half of it because I was tired of watching lesbians die. Because it was a series of just like dead lesbian, dead lesbian, dead lesbian, and occasionally, oh, not dead lesbian, but she's crazy.
Yeah.
And then dead lesbian, dead lesbian. Oh, she's not dead, but she's evil. Like it was dead lesbians followed by evil lesbians followed by crazy lesbians.
Mm.
And sometimes all three at once. Cough, cough, Buffy, cough, cough. And like, it's just one episode. We got all three tropes.
Yep.
Just like, how the hell do you do this? And so all the justifications, I'm sure, like, and you can take every single singular episode of a show or a movie or whatever that has a dead lesbian in it and probably find justifications for it. But when you stand back, the pattern becomes a bit frustrating.
Mhm.
And I know I think I even sent it to you. Like one of the there's like a couple of channels I follow that just talk about like upcoming lesbian shows or blah 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 shows with sapphic content. They literally like they said in after season 3 is like don't watch this, don't watch Wheel of Time to other sapphics because it'll just be another one,
Mhm.
and you don't need that in your life.
Sure.
And it's
Sure.
just, which I understand because I'm sorry, the show actively marketed itself to sapphics,
Mhm.
and now sapphics are out there being like, no,
Mhm.
don't do that
Mhm.
because we have enough of that. We have
Yeah.
enough. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just I can't like, especially with this on my shirt, like I have to talk about it, even though it's as a like I'm a Wheel of Time fan first. Like that is my grief on this is not about this part, but this is just like I said, it's the cherry on top.
And it's absolutely like not something to just brush under the carpet or to justify.
Yeah.
I mean, like we can justify every choice that somebody makes in a story. Like you can always
Mm,
justify a choice somebody makes in the story. We can justify Layla's fridging. We can justify
exactly.
the death of Swan. We can justify, and in a show that is also, I think, creating a sort of like making a statement that is gender identity or sexual identity is like this is a time period where it is less defined
Mm,
again, like, so like we haven't seen Alana with a woman, but it wouldn't surprise me that Alana had been with a woman
wouldn't
at some
surprise me at
point.
all.
Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think she's just very
yeah.
comfortable sleeping with anything with two legs or one leg.
Mm.
It doesn't matter.
I
um
don't think she cares about
I
the
don't think she cares
legs.
about the legs. Exactly. So, so
Yes.
then the question becomes like, well, if we kill Alana, are we, I think that the
Mm,
show, and again, not making excuses for the choices that they're making, but I think the show is like
mm.
less about them being lesbians and more about that they're lesbians, but they're also like, they're just people living in this world who happen to be
Yeah,
with women.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
in a way that's like, yay, cool, super progressive, but also like, no, but you
Mm.
didn't put them in a polycule. You didn't make them like,
Yeah.
it would have been like killing off Elaine or Avienda, who are suddenly together
Mm.
because the fandom knows that probably they're both going to be in love with Rand at some point,
Rand, yeah.
wouldn't have felt
Yeah.
as much like killing a lesbian as much as just like
Yeah.
they are in a queer relationship. So I
Yeah.
do think that because Siuan and Moiraine were like very clearly defined as a lesbian couple,
Mhm.
there were lots of choices that were very like, you know, little keystones for to like sapphic content of like, oh, look at that, look at this.
Mhm.
She takes her rings off before she goes through the thing, the Terangria. Like there was just all these like
Yeah.
really lovely moments
Yes.
of like to say
That
it
moment.
was so
That
good.
was like seriously that was like a pulling up a chair and pulling up your hair. That was a Billie Eilish moment. Just
Exactly. Exactly. So there were so many clues that were like, don't worry, they're not going to be with Tom and Gareth later. These are not just like
Yeah,
women
yeah.
who sleep with anything. These are women who love each other first and foremost. So it, you know, I
Yeah.
think that I do think again, like that gets us to a place that is, you know, uh, in trying to do good, still like maybe not being as careful or thoughtful about like I mean, maybe it would have actually been less of a dead lesbian trope if he had said from the beginning, these two are together. They've both had male lovers before. They may have male lovers again in the future, and said
Mhm.
they are, you know, they're, you know, just straight up bisexual or they are like, you know, whatever. And to not say just like, but because we didn't see that, now the death really
Yeah.
hits back into the trope. And I don't, and
Yeah.
I think that there, you know, I don't think that it shouldn't be discussed. And I also wish that the end result wasn't that we're just putting one more piece into that
Yeah.
category, you know.
Yeah, and I know that there will be people in the comments, and I'm just gonna say that I don't think that avoiding the trope means that we can never kill a lesbian. Like, I don't think that. It's just I who was it? Was it you? I can't remember. Somebody pointed out, like, when you've been hit in the same place a lot of times, at a certain point, even if somebody just bumps you and they're not doing it on purpose,
Right.
they're hitting a bruise
Right.
and it's gonna hurt.
Right.
And
Right.
it has like whether their intention is to do it or not. And I don't know who it was, but that's just that's the what's happened, and so that's why you are literally seeing people being like, just yeah, no,
I'm
no,
done.
don't pick this up,
Yeah, and
right?
it, you know,
Yeah.
it's like because look, that trauma is real. Like if we could jump 200 years into the future and media had been clean for
Mhm.
200 years and that trope had not been around for a long time,
Yeah.
and then that trope came back and someone was like, "Damn it, that trope's always there." You could be like, "It hasn't been there for 200 years at this point. Like just like
Yeah.
let's move on. We have to be able to kill a lesbian someday." Like, you know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
but we aren't there. We aren't there.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it is dicey. And I think like per Rafe's comment of like I could either make them not make them lesbians or, you know, make them lesbians and then like let that happen. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it would have been better to make them
Yeah.
make them
I
just
honestly don't.
bisexual and
Yeah.
like and just not say that they're like just a lesbian couple and then therefore it falls into that trope. I mean, maybe that would have been a different way to handle it, knowing that you were going to have to kill one of them for story reasons. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, it it's not there's not an easy answer. And it
No,
is
there
not
isn't. Like I don't
yeah.
like that's what I mean. It's not the main issue, obviously, for me. It's the cherry on top, and I don't know how to fix it. Like it's one of those
I don't
things.
yeah.
And thinking about like as I said, I made a whole video that's really hard to watch because it's right when I got this new avatar, and so the avatar is really bad when you want like it's really creepy looking because I hadn't like done all of the stuff with the skin. It I know some people find this avatar creepy. No, no, no. Go back and watch my video about Soireen. That avatar was creepy. Anyway, but one of the things I talked about in that video is that I thought even if it wasn't a lesbian couple, like even if it was like what dictated Swan and Moraine being lesbian was just the rules of the world, not like wanting to be woke.
Mhm.
Because I thought making them a couple heightened the story.
Yes.
Like it made Moraine's story better.
Yes.
And so I think by killing Swan, you've actually undercut Moraine's story. Now the thought that I've had about that is if she dies next season, like we think that, I think is likely, you think is likely,
Mhm.
uh, that could actually make sense that like you've taken away some of her foundation. So maybe she dies kind of as a result of not really having something to live for,
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
that kind of thing. I
Mhm.
could see that being that, but I do feel that their relationship made the story it would have made the story better if Siuan was a man or Moiraine was a man. Like, it wouldn't, having them have to have the secret relationship that they deeply love each other, but they can't be together because they have other, like, the saving the world is more important. Like,
Yeah.
that made the story better.
Yeah.
And now that is gone. And I just think it makes the story, well, I guess worse. It's the opposite of better. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, I'm not again. I'm not sorry. I don't want to, I don't, it's
No, no,
certainly
no.
did not mean to sound dismissive at all.
Yeah,
Um, the,
I literally wanted to do this with you, so
I know, I know.
don't worry.
I
You
know.
don't need to cage your
I know.
or,
I know.
or hedge your bets there.
But
Yeah.
the difficulty of this kind of show with I mean this big of an ensemble cast and this many main character stories to follow. Everybody was so angry in season 1 about like, what do you mean you're calling the Dragon Reborn could be a girl? Brr, like
Yeah.
it makes the story far more interesting if we don't know who it is, if we think it could
Mhm.
be Nynaeve or Egwene,
Yeah.
if we have that sort of ambiguity. And also, as we all know, like Egwene's storyline leads her to end up being,
Yeah.
in my mind, as important as
Yes.
as Rand's
Yeah.
story, and like literally important in saving the world in a way that I think maybe Jordan didn't start there, but I think very quickly into the story was like, oh wait, this is a story about balance.
Mhm.
It's a story about male and female. It's a story about black
Yeah.
and white. It's a story about good and evil. Like, where's the balance to Rand, and where's the other half of that
Yeah.
story? And I think that if we are going to keep going down that path and giving Matt his arc and giving Perrin his arc and giving Nynaeve her arc, we couldn't keep the Moiraine Swan storyline as heightened and as front and center as it should have been for what it became and what it was for the next 5 seasons. So again,
Yeah.
like to me, that sort of like choosing to wrap that storyline up in 3, really, in some ways, and still like poke at it and have little things that are going to come back to it. I mean, I it's a salvo when he says like, don't worry, like we're going to see something.
Yeah. That
I'm like,
I said it to
yeah,
you.
yeah,
I literally said to you, I was like, that means literally nothing
yeah.
to me. Because
It's not,
I could be wrong. Watch again. We could all be wrong. It could be some random character or not Leanna, and maybe it'll be something different. But in my mind, that
yeah,
was like, oh, no, they get to be happy in heaven. Why do I care?
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it'd be the
Exactly.
next life, but it's
Even
not the
next
life
life,
that I
but it's
care
like,
about. Like,
right, no,
yeah,
they're different people when they
yeah,
come back, so it's not the same. So, I
yeah,
think that to me, that's a little bit of a like not really
mm,
fixing that, but I do think
yeah,
that having complete arcs of a particular part of the storyline or the character arcs, like of their relationship arc, being 3 of the 5 of the 8 seasons, I'm
mm.
okay with that too. Like I feel like they gave them a lot more than they gave Sean Bean. You
Oh,
I mean, and that was in the books.
yeah.
That was straight out of George R. R. Martin. I'm not like
Okay, I haven't
blaming
read
the
those books, so
showrunners.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean that
yeah,
happens in the books too. But it's like, like we really didn't get any Ned story. And like I was like, even though she was only in a few episodes until this season, I feel like I know them and I know their story so well. And I just don't know that there's room to continue giving it the due it deserves at this point, unless you decide this is a story where Moiraine is the main character. It is not about Rand. It is not about Egwene. It is not about Nynaeve.
mm,
And the books are never that. Like, and
no,
I know the reasons why they did it in the beginning. That
mm,
you had a name, you had to do all these things, and frankly, her story is really interesting in the beginning. Frankly, like that she comes in and she's mysterious.
yeah,
It's really cool. So I don't have any
mm,
problem with that. But I don't think that you maintain that for 8 seasons unless you change a lot. And
right.
so, yeah, there's that side of it
Yeah.
too.
Have I told you my other theory? This is not really anything to do, but my other theory about one of the reasons why they would have done that, like aside from obviously the Rosamund Pike factor,
Right.
but I don't think Allie has said this. Allie from Wheel Takes has said this. I don't think a lot of us who've been reading these books for a long time remember how young the characters are until you suddenly put actors on them, and we're like, oh, I don't want to watch a show with a bunch of 16 to 19 year
No,
olds. Like,
no,
no,
ew.
we need some adults in the mix. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
We just need some
yes,
adults to care about
right,
because
right. I mean,
yeah.
they're such whiny babies
Yeah.
at the beginning. They're like, I didn't want to follow her.
Yeah.
I'm like, come
It's
on.
just so
Yeah, I think that that's another reason where like we don't want people to think that they're watching a teen drama.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, he was like, I think
Yeah.
he even said it at the beginning. He was like, we could either make it, shit, what's the Archie show? Riverdale. We could make it Riverdale or not make it Riverdale. And
Mhm.
we weren't going to make it Riverdale. I was like, thank God you didn't make it Riverdale. I mean, nothing against Riverdale, but that's just a different kind of show.
yeah.
And
I've
Buffy,
never watched
like,
Riverdale, so I have no thoughts about it whatsoever.
well, I haven't really watched it either, but like, it's,
Okay.
or Buffy even, it's still about high schoolers.
mhm.
There's an aspect of
Yeah.
teen angstiness, or Twilight for that matter. I mean,
Yeah. I have to tell you, with like just using Buffy as an example, I remember there was a point where I was watching a show and I was after Buffy and I was like, oh, I love this genre. And I started seeking out shows with this genre or this like whatever. And it had to be like, oh, I no longer care about high school students anymore. Like all of their concerns, I'm just like, no, you're not gonna care about this in 5 years. Oh, I can't get emotionally invested
Nope.
because none of this matters.
Right.
Like who's class president? I don't give a fuck who's class president. So I had to move on.
Yes.
Right? But that's another one. Like it's one of my theories about why, for example, they made Alana and Maxim more a part of the Two Rivers story was because we didn't have like the actor playing Tam to be there. Like we needed adults to care about in the scene, just because otherwise it would be, oh, look at these two. Like, and I loved the parent fighting of it
yeah.
all. I loved that, but they're just little babies.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
just like, oh, look at the little babies.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. No,
So,
it's true. It's true. It's really
um,
great. It's really, really a good point.
All right, so there you have it. This was the first half of the conversation. Like I said, we were talking about Swan in this video, and I don't know about you, like if you were like me feeling some kind of way, or if I don't know, this helped me. This really, really did help me. And so this second half, which will be coming out as soon as I get to it, it will be us talking about my girl, Nynaeve. And yeah, that was also helpful for me too. So we'll get there. But let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments below. And if you like my content and you want to support me, I also have a Patreon that is linked in the description below. To my patrons, as always, thank you so much for your continued support. This is all possible because of you. So thank you so much. And with that, I am gonna end this here. So please like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.